What if I told you the very thing you keep chasing, the thing you believe will finally change your life, is actually the reason you keep getting stuck? I'm talking about motivation. That loud, fiery, I'm unstoppable today kind of energy. We all love it. It feels powerful. It feels like destiny tapping you on the shoulder. And yet, a week later, it disappears. The hype fades, reality kicks in. And you're staring at another half-done plan, feeling like you failed, again. But here's the truth no one tells you. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're just running on the wrong fuel. So let me tell you a story. A slow, patient, honest story about a young craftsman named Arden and an ancient clock everyone believed was beyond saving. Inside this story is a lesson that doesn't burn out, doesn't fade, and doesn't depend on your mood. Arden inherited his father's tiny workshop. His father, Elias, was known across the region as a master of timepieces, a man whose hands seemed to understand gears, the way musicians understand music. The shop was small, dusty, filled with ticking sounds, glass cases, wooden shelves, and the soft smell of brass and oil. Arden had talent, the kind people are born with. If his father understood clocks, Arden felt them. But he had one major flaw. He couldn't sit with the boring stuff. Replacing a battery? Boring. Tightening a loose spring? Boring. Fixing an old lady's simple watch? Even more boring. Arden wanted glory. He wanted brilliance. He wanted to build incredible machines, clocks that moved with planets, dials that danced on the hour, mechanisms no one had dared imagine. So whenever inspiration hit, he'd work like he was possessed. Hours of excitement, sketches everywhere. But the moment he hit a problem that required patience instead of passion, he'd quit, push the project aside, start a new one. Because of this, his father's once-loved workshop was falling silent. Dust on the counters, empty benches, fewer customers, less money, more regrets. One quiet morning, the front bell chimed softly. An elderly man stepped in, carrying a heavy wooden case in his hands. Inside was a tall, carved, breathtaking grandfather clock, dark walnut, hand-etched brass, the kind of piece that belonged in a museum. The clock was silent. It hasn't worked in more than 50 years. The old man whispered, "I've taken it to experts across the state. None of them could bring it back. Your father was the only one they thought capable." He paused, studying Arden. "They say you have his hands." Then he placed an envelope on the counter. "Fix this, and you'll save your shop." Arden felt excitement surge through him. Not the everyday work he hated, but a challenge, a legend, a masterpiece waiting for resurrection. "I'll take it," he said, already imagining his victory. For the first few days, Arden worked like a storm. He disassembled the clock piece by delicate piece, each gear shining under the lamplight. It felt like discovery, like destiny, like genius. But then, the real work appeared. Over 1,000 components, needed to be cleaned, measured, tested. Hours of repetitive steps, tiny adjustments, careful brushes, slow progress. And with every passing day, Arden's excitement slipped through his fingers. The hype was gone. Only the grind remained. Soon he was exhausted, annoyed, and convinced he had made a mistake. One afternoon, in a burst of irritation, he hit a tray of screws and sent them scattering across the floor. On his knees, picking up the tiny pieces, he felt it, the same heaviness he'd felt for years. "I'm not made for this. This clock is impossible. I'll call the old man tomorrow and tell him I can't do it." For the first time, he truly believed he had failed. That night, unable to sleep, Arden started cleaning out his father's old desk, a ritual he did whenever he felt lost. Inside a hidden drawer, he discovered several worn, leather-bound journals, Elias's work logs. Arden opened the first one expecting brilliance, a secret technique, a burst of genius. a glimpse into his father's legendary mind. But the pages were nothing like that. They were simple, plain, humble. Spent the morning fixing Mr. Holt's broken spring. Slow progress. Noticed a boy crying over his father's watch. Repaired it for free. Worked all day on the courthouse clock and still didn't solve it. Try again tomorrow. Page after page. It was the same steady rhythm of daily work. At the back of one journal, Elias had written just one paragraph. A message not meant for glory, but for truth. A man who waits for inspiration will live in a world of beginnings. But discipline builds endings. Clocks don't run on passion. They run because someone built them. With patience, consistency, and care. Arden froze. His father wasn't legendary because he was inspired. He was legendary because he showed up, even when he didn't feel like it. That was his real gift. The next morning, Arden walked into the workshop different. He made one promise. 4 hours. Every morning. No matter what. No mood. No excuses. He didn't wait for excitement. He didn't glance at his sketchbook. He didn't chase big ideas. He sat down, picked up one gear, and worked. The first days were slow. His mind begged him to quit. No progress. No glory. No spark. But he kept going. One tiny task. One cleaned gear. One measured piece. And slowly, he found a new kind of peace. Not excitement, but pride. Pride in the quiet moments. Pride in doing something correctly. Not quickly. 3 long weeks into this routine, Arden found it. A barely visible bend. On a gear tooth buried deep in the mechanism. The flaw everyone else had missed. The flaw only patience could reveal. He repaired it, then reassembled the entire clock slow and steady, piece by piece. Finally, he hung the pendulum and gently pushed it. Silence. Then, tick, tick, tick. The workshop came alive again. When the elderly man returned the next morning, Arden didn't say a word. He simply nodded toward the fully restored clock, its pendulum swaying in quiet, perfect rhythm. The man approached it slowly, laid his hand on the wooden frame, and listened. His eyes filled with tears. I haven't heard that sound since my father was alive. He whispered, "You didn't just fix a clock. You gave me back a memory." Arden realized then, it was never about genius. It was about showing up, even when he didn't want to. It was about the kind of character, built in silence. So what did Arden learn? And what should we take from his journey? Motivation gets you started, but discipline gets you somewhere. Anyone can wake up inspired for a day, but life doesn't care about your mood. The excitement fades, the obstacles show up, and that's where most people quit. Discipline is what keeps you moving when the spark is gone. Fall in love with the process, not the finish line. The prize feels good for a moment, but the person you become while chasing it, that lasts. Greatness isn't about completing one big thing. It's about becoming the type of person who finishes what they start every time. Because confidence comes from consistency, not luck. Show up on the days you don't want to. Anybody can work when it feels fun. Real growth happens on the boring days, the heavy days, the days when no one is cheering for you. Those days build character. Those days build strength. Those days turn dreamers into doors. One gear at a time. One sentence at a time. One step at a time. That's how anything meaningful is built. Not through hype. Not through motivation. But through slow, steady, quiet consistency. If this story connected with you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and subscribe, because the next story might be exactly what you need to hear next.